If you remember during the unboxing, I had noted that the previous owner had started assembly on the engine. He did not get very far. He basically made it halfway through step one on the instructions and then just barely started to clean up some of the seam lines. Alright, let's get to work. First things first, the front of this engine here, we need that seam line cleaned up and flattened so we do have a good base for everything starting from there. Now the idea here is to remove just enough material to flatten this part out and make it level. Once you get it down to where the seam line will not catch your fingernail, then you're good to go. That's really all we need to do here. As you saw in the thumbnail, this thing is wired. I'm going to go ahead and drill out the holes for the plug wires now. Now with that head glued in place, I'm going to drill a little bitty hole right here in one of the mounting bosses. It's going to be nice and hidden. Now I'm just going to jab one of my painting sticks in there, and I'm going to set this off over to the side with a whole bunch of other parts that I had cleaned up off camera, because now we're ready for paint. And starting off, I'm going to use some Hardware Store flat black to paint all the belts and pulleys. For everything else, it needs to be kind of an aluminium color. To do that, I had used some leftover Apollo silver from the Audi R8 build. And yeah, I've gone over it before. For these small parts, I do not use primer. I just paint directly on the plastic. I have had issues in the past when I build up layers of primer and then layers of paint that things get a little bit out of spec and don't fit the way they're supposed to. And ever since, I've had the best luck with just a few light coats of paint without primer. Now, I wasn't really liking how bright this aluminium color came out, so I dulled it down a little bit with one thin coat of some matte clear from Tamiya. And yes, you saw right, I am wearing a purple shirt. And I had to cut out the majority of the hand painting because, as you could see here, nothing was in focus. I don't know what's wrong with this camera right now. Now for the fins and the lettering on the valve covers and the intake, I just did a light dry brush with some silver to make it stand out. Now, on almost every build, I try to do something new and I just keep experimenting until I find a method that works for me and delivers consistent results. Namely on a VTS Ram build, I had used a toothpick as a mini paint roller to paint these raised lettering on the valve cover and the intake. I'm thinking maybe a dry brush is probably the best way to do this. It is just slow and tedious, but it is well worth it in the end. With everything painted up, it's finally time to start putting this all together. Starting with the starter. Huh, I made a joke. Do you understand? Now, much like the Tostarosa build that I did last year, the kit distributor did not leave a whole lot of room for individual wires. So I just stripped the casing on the wires back. The individual strands I twisted up and glued them together to hold everything in place. Now that the glue is finally dry, I'm going to do some test fitting. In the distributor, I just drilled one hole as close to center as I can, which as you saw was way off. And normally I don't like doing this because it looks janky, but the intake completely covers this up. You won't even see the distributor, you'll just see the wire sticking out. That's not going anywhere. Now with this installed, I'm just going to gently bend the wires up and start routing. God damn it. Third time's the charm. Now when it comes to the tappet covers, this one right here, it's got the little bitty divot for the oil fill. Make sure you put that on the bottom side of the head. And right now is a good time to start routing these plug wires because once both of the tappet covers are on, there will be no room. I had actually learned that the hard way. I had to rip this tappet cover off, run the plug wires, now glue it back in the second time. Remember earlier, I was saying the intake is going to cover up that distributor? Yeah, we're going to hide all those ugly sins. Nobody will know about it, except for you and I. Now, I try to stay humble and not brag a lot, but I got some boasting to do. I just blindly installed that AC compressor. Look how square I got it. That thing fits perfect. Now, just a heads up, anyone planning to build this kit in the future, get some tweezers, because you are not assembling the engine or the suspension without a pair. I am glad once all this is assembled, you guys will not be seeing these bolts, because this one does not fit that well. Now off camera, I painted this whole assembly in a flat steel so you guys could see the fun stuff. More dry brushing. Starting off with a rust color. Now I eventually did a total of 3 different colors. I'd done rust, flat black, and then a gold color to add some heat staining. That is of course after I partook in a scavenger hunt. Now just as I was going to install this, I got a phone call at 3 a.m. And unbeknownst to me, it stopped recording, even though I didn't answer it. So my sincerest apologies, you guys didn't get to see me glue that piece in place. So we are just over 10 minutes. That's a fairly decent stopping point, so I'm going to wrap this up right here. I had originally intended to do this engine and the chassis all in one video together, but since we have to modify the chassis to lower it and do a bunch of other work, it's going to be in its own video, which you guys will be seeing very soon.